And I would also like to state that on many occasions, Menai officials came onto the property without authorization or announcement, and not once did any of them ever make an entry into the project Batakara, which I understand is pretty much normal legal procedure. A lot of accusations were made and investigations were done. They never bothered to come in and talk to us to inquire about anything. They just assumed what they wanted to assume. And in one instance, when Menai officials came to the property, I went out to meet them. And Mr. Christian Bogantes was there and said to me, he was equating, what he said was that my cutting Sakate with regards to that act, he said to me, what would the world be like if we killed all of our children? And I asked him, are you saying that my cutting Takotal and Sakata is equal to killing children? He said yes. In the instances where the Menai officials came out and were delineating what they said were wetlands, Mr. Luis Picado came to the property and in a cavalier manner was pointing out where there would be wetlands. And I was walking with him during the inspection. And every time he put a stake down, he would laugh and say, "This is my finca." Okay, I would just say that in closing, Your Honor, I have not heard one shred of evidence, concrete evidence, from the prosecution that proves me guilty of any of these accusations. And I respectfully ask for justice.
Okay.
Name is David Aven. Can't say I'm happy to be here, but we'll make the best of it. Excuse me one second.
David, we can put him on the table. She's saying that you can put him on the table if you want.
Do words have meaning? Are words important? There's a couple scriptures in the Bible I like a lot. And one of them is says, by your words you'll be justified, and by your words you'll be condemned. Another one is, know the truth, and the truth shall set you free. And a good friend of mine, an attorney from Florida, used to say all the time, he's a good attorney, and he says, you know, he says, truth is like a bell. It has a certain ring to it. A friend of mine, Steve Garrett, who's known him a long time, and he always used to tell me that. He was a litigator. And I never forgot that, because truth is important. When people come up and give their testimony, Judge, you make them raise their hand and say, tell the truth, you know, the threat of perjury. So truth is very important. Like Javon, I've never been charged with a crime before. The first time I had to be in court defending myself for a crime that wasn't committed. So, that's what trials are all about. A judge or a jury listening to words from the lips of witnesses or from documents to determine what the truth is. And that's what we're doing today. And I have listened intently to the words spoken by the witnesses. I've looked at the evidence presented by the prosecution, and I have not heard one word that proves up the prosecution's case. I'm talking about evidence. I'm not talking about accusations, allegations, or assertions. This is not a court of allegations, assertions, or accusations. This is a court of law where law applies, where facts are important. Evidence is important. Truthful testimony is imperative. So, let me just the point here. Your Honor made an important statement at the beginning of the trial. The statement was, it's going to come down to the permits, the $1 permits. show you the area that is in question. This is the Los Olas project here. The prosecutor didn't show it to you, but I'm going to show it to you. Now, all the area in white is Los Olas. The area in yellow outside of Los Olas. The Higueron tree that Javon was talking about is right there. Not part of the project. Here's Bucciolato's place up here. He lives at the highest point in the property. And he's like looking over his domain. He's like, you know, and as Javon said, he wanted to buy this property. Mr. Bucciolato is the one who really started this whole thing. Because he's a competitor, he owns property in the different, in Los Olas, in Estoril. I found the interesting comment when he was giving his testimony, when you asked him, Your Honor, do you have anything personal in this? And not only was his answer yes, it was definitely. So, there's personal things going on here. By his own words. Again, do words have meaning? Filed complaints in 2010 with 5 different government agencies. The TENA, the MNI, the MUNI, Defensoria, TAA, prosecutor. The TENA and the MNI, based upon these complaints, did investigations and inspection reports in June and August of 2010. I'm going to look at those in a minute, but both of those come back, no wetlands. I want to get to the permits right now, Your Honor. This is the Satena permit. June 2010. This is an official legal document from the government of Costa Rica. Clearing the project environmentally and giving us the go-ahead for the construction. Let me back up a minute here, John. Before we got that permit, Your Honor, Lanai sent this letter to the company, the government material, whom we had engaged to take the project through the permitting process. Read that last line, please.
We're ready.
Okay, so, again, do words have meaning? We spoke to Raul Chavez from Satena, he's Director of Projects. And this is the document that Satena relied on before they issued the permit, this document right here. And I asked him about this document, I said, do you have to rely on this document? And his comment to me was, we legally are required to rely on this document. They're legally required by law to rely on this document from Anai before they issue a permit. Now, Your Honor, this isn't evidence, but look at this. Here's what this permit allows. For construction. Do words have meaning? Now, when a developer gets a permit from Satena, by the way, Your Honor, Satena is, and I'm sure Your Honor knows, the only government agency, the only one granted authority by the government and the courts to issue environmental permits. It's not granted to Manai. It's not granted to TAA. It's not granted to the Procuria. It's not granted to the prosecutor. Satena. These are the permits that the government says developers must have and get from their government agency to do a project. And we got these permits. So what's next? After you get your permit, what do? You take the permit, you then take the plans that the architect was Museo Madrigal, this is a contract, Judge. So we engaged with Museo Madrigal to do the permission process. As you see here, right? It was not cheap. Okay? Now, but it took over a year. But they got it finished. Now, Museo Madrigal, part of that job, what part of their job, what they do? They got a master site plan, engineers, architects, everything, total water, drainage, treatment plans, total. process is, once you get the Satana environmental approvals, you then take, and they have big plans, Judge, it's like this. You take those plans to the Callejo architects. They look at it. You pay them a fee. Stamp the approval on it. You then take that permissions down to the municipality, and you apply for your construction. That's what we did. And this is the construction permit right here, Judge. Issued September 7th, 2010. Right here. If Your Honor would notice, we pay the municipality making colonies. Okay? Now, and I asked a number of people this, Judge. If a developer gets permissions from the government of Costa Rica, environmental permits, construction documents, should that developer feel, and put yourself in my position, okay? If this happened to you or your family, your father, your brother, you feel, you do all the right things, you take all the right steps, and let me just say this, you hire all the right professionals, and keep in mind, this is a proved project. According to the government of Costa Rica, we have architects, engineers, lawyers, we have environmental representatives required by Satana. The requirements that Satana has when they give you the permit. You have to have an environmental representative. And every 2 months he comes and does a report, puts it in the binocular, and sends it to Satana. There are professionals on this project. This is not a situation where we didn't do anything, where the prosecutor or somebody come up and, oh, you're developing this project and it's illegal. No, we had the permissions. We had professionals on staff. Now, I ask this question all the time. I ask it of the prosecutor when I gave my statement. I ask it to the judges when I appeared in court prior to this. And I'm going to ask it right now. I thought, and the way I thought it works and the way I think it works is, countries where they operate under democracy and under the rule of law, that before you committed or can be charged with a crime, a law has to be broken. Does that make sense? I think so. I think how this court works. So my question is, tell me what law I have broken. We're operating under legally issued government permits. Now, when these permits are issued, And I asked this question when I met with Esau Chavez, the Director of Operations from Satena. I said, would you issue permits? First of all, does that permit say and imply that there are no wetlands, there are no forests, and there are no environmental problems with the project? He said, absolutely. He said, we cannot issue a permit unless we are convinced. And there's a lot of stuff, there's a lot of things that happen before they issue the permit. This is a D1 permit, the most complicated permit you can get. It requires impact studies, all kind of reports. And Satena has to get all those reports back favorably, or they don't issue the permit. It's that simple. Now, there's professionals on staff. And another thing I asked, and so I asked Mr. Chavez, I said, Mr. Chavez, when you issue these permits, should the developer feel confident that he can work these permits without fear of somebody else coming along, especially another government agency coming along, and shutting the project down or suing him for criminally violating the He says, yes, of course. Since this is a valid government permit. Now, and I asked him, I said, what is the procedure if a government agency or anybody challenges a legally issued Satena permit? And you know what he told me? And Manuel was there translating. He said, anybody challenges a Satena permit, they must immediately notify us, tell us the nature of the challenge. They must provide documentary evidence to prove their basis of the challenge. Provide us with any reports that they have regarding the environment, and then we become the lead agency to investigate that charge. And we need to determine where the mistake is. Because you see, Judge, a mistake is made here. Huge error has been made. There's no doubt about that. Either it was before they issued the permit, or it's now. What's the answer? And that's what Satena has to find out. Now, the professionals. We have Satena. I call them the elephant in the room. I'm not sure I'm confused. that's involved. Okay? The elephant. The elephant's big, important, and they're there. But you know what? None of these people deny, none of these say, hey, the pro-Korea, paying attention to the elephant. Nobody has gone to Satena at all. Although Satena says when their permit's challenged, that's the first thing that has to happen. Because the prosecutor and the pro-Korea effect challenging another government agency's authority. And nobody has gone to Satena. We checked all the files. We asked Satena, did anybody come to you and talk to you about this? The answer is no. Now, if Mr. Chavez was right, he says when a Satena permit is challenged, they must go to Satena, and it's required, then there's something going on here that's not right. This is a legally permitted project. But the prosecutor has not talked to Satena. He's not talked to our engineers. He's not spoken to our environmental representative. He's not spoken to the attorneys. He's not spoken to the project manager. In a way of contacting the people that were responsible for issuing this permit. Instead, he comes after me, charges me criminally with violating wetlands. And like Javon, I listened very carefully to the evidence and testimony in this courtroom, and I didn't hear one word, not one word, implicating me in anything illegal, in any crime that's been charged, I've been charged with. I want to talk about this benign report. Now, Your Honor read this report during the trial, but I want to tell you about this, how I got this report. And everything I'm explaining to you, Judge, you're hearing today, I already previously told the prosecutor the exact same thing when I gave my statement in May of 2011. I'm not going to read it. I gave a statement against the advice of my lawyers. Not these gentlemen, but the others. And they said, look, this is criminal. Don't talk to this guy. I said, baloney. I've done nothing wrong. I want to talk to the prosecutor. I want to explain everything that happened. I want to tell him I have all the permissions. I want to show him the reports. And I'm sure this is just one big mistake. Once the prosecutor understands the facts, I'm sure he'll just dismiss the case because we've done nothing wrong. So I gave him a statement under oath and permitted him to ask me questions, any question he wants, in that statement. And there's the statement. Now, and I explained this to him. You see the date of this report. June, was it July of... However, I didn't get this report until March of 2011. Why? Well, because they didn't give it to us. They didn't send that report to us. We didn't know about it. The only way we found out about this report was by accident. My environmental representative was looking over this letter by Christian Balgantes. He's looking at this letter. In this letter. He says, David. He says, listen. He says, he's talking about this report with this Acapulco number. We don't, and it says there's no wetlands. We don't have that report. We need to get that. You need to go down there and get that. Okay. The next day, I get in my car, drive to Capos. I'm in Nye's office right here. I go in with this letter. Now, as you know, we are entitled to get copies of documents in public files. Go down and you request them, they give them to you. No big deal, right? I go down, and there was a couple people in the office. I show this letter to the girl. I don't speak Spanish. So I said, quiero copy of this report thing. And the girl was very polite. She says, okay, but you need to write something. And I said, well, you know, my poor Spanish. Judah me? She said, yeah. So she starts writing it out. So she goes. About that far. Maybe a little closer. Files on the table. She's writing the little letter. In the meantime, Christian Bogantis walks in. What's going on? What's going on? Showed him the letter. I said, I want this report right here. And he starts, blah, blah, blah. Hold it, I don't speak Spanish. Tried to call my lawyer. He wasn't there. So I called a friend of mine who spoke English and Spanish. And I said, would you tell him I want a copy of this report that I'm pointing to? And she tells him. He's talking and talking. 5 minutes. He said, stop. Give me, can I get the phone? What's going on? Why take it so long? It's just a simple thing. I just want the report. I says, what's the guy saying? She said, I don't know. This guy's not making any sense at all. He doesn't have the report. Maybe in Forescale. It may be in San Jose. He doesn't know where the report is. Well, Judge, that time I got very upset. Because I don't like to be lied to. Now, when Christian Bogantes didn't know, and I told this girl translating, I said, now I'm mad. Because something very simple is turning into something very complicated. And now I'm being lied to on top of it. And I said, you tell him this. And you tell him this exact word, and I'm going to tell you how I talk. I don't respect it for it. Because I'm a little upset. I said, you tell him the file is right in front of me on a table, entitled to see that report, on a copy of it right now. Well, now he's caught in a lie. Now he's looking at the file. So he backs up. He calls up an attorney in Forescale, Laura Chavez. He's talking to her. He gets the phone. And he gets the phone and goes like this. So something right. I back up a little bit. Hello? Laura speaks good English. The attorney and I, she says, what's the problem? I said, here's the problem, Laura. I want to get a report. We're entitled to get reports, as you know. The report is sitting on the desk in front of me. Mr. Bogantes will not give it to me. Let me talk to him. So I give him the phone. I don't go like this, Judge. So I see this Bogantes face up. He has this very distressed look on his face. And he starts running around. He doesn't let me talk to Laura Chavez again. He just hangs up the phone. No, I'm waiting there. So he goes around, and finally, all of a sudden, this report that he didn't have magically appears. And he writes this letter. And this is a peculiar letter because, he made me sign it. And You know, normally when you get reports, you just go and, you know, like I say, very simple. But he writes up this, you know, this, what I call, you know, I don't know. He was kind of wanting to, like Pilate, he wants to wash his hands of the whole thing. And he said, look, I tried not to give him the report, but Laura Chavez made me do it. Louis Picardo, he's the one that's in charge of all this. Now, this report's very interesting. Very important report. Because this was done by Mr. Manfredi, and Your Honor read this report in trial here. And Mr. Manfredi, I understand, is the one person in the region that is Menai's wetland expert. And of course, this report says, as you've read, Your Honor, no. Now, you see here, right here, Mr. Manfredi said that there were two other reports done. And both of those reports come back no wetlands. Okay? Now, when Mr. Bogantis was testifying in open court here, under oath, under the threat of perjury, you read that report and you said, now Mr. Bogantis, and Mr. Bogantis was testifying right in his chair about wetlands, lakes, and you said, Mr. Bogantis, and you read this entire report, and you said, Mr. Bogantis, this report is in contradiction to what you just testified in open court. Could you explain that? Now, this is what my mouth told me. And what was his answer? I just drove him there. I just drove him there. All right. Mr. Bogantis didn't sign that report. Maybe Mr. Bogantis, maybe Mr. Manfredi was mistaken. Maybe it was the truth. Maybe he just drove him there. Okay. Let's give him the benefit of the doubt. Right? Your Honor, there's an old saying. Oh, the web you weave when you first start out to deceive.
Can you repeat that, please?
Oh, the web you weave when you first start out to deceive. Did you ever hear that expression? It's like a spider web, you know. And when you start weaving something, then it gets all distorted. Mr. Bogantis, when he's in the hot seat here, he asked, "Can you explain your contradiction?" I just drove him there. However, Mr. Bergantes forgot that on August 27th, he writes a letter. Now this is like 5 weeks later. And he writes a letter to Hazel Melendez, the defensoria, because of Buccelato's complaints. And she says, look, what's going on with Las Olas? Tell me everything you know. Tells her
El señor Bogantes
the reports that were done. You know, talking about the reports. And lo and behold, on page 2, right here, you can read that yourself, can't you? He tells Helen Melendez, referring to the Manfredi report, Rolando Manfredi and Christian Bogantes that conducted this inspection right there.
de que
Doesn't say I drove him there. He's telling her 5 weeks later, I conducted this with him. Do words have meaning? Now, under oath, he told him that, Your Honor. Now, I'm not a lawyer, but you know what? That doesn't sound like he told you the truth when he was testifying. And let's look at what else he said in this letter, right here. What's it say here? There is no evidence. These inspection reports show there's no evidence of wetlands, the lakes or lagoons in this zone. They're right here. And do words have meaning? See, these are words we can evaluate for truthfulness. With Mr. Buccellato, and that report came out, Judge. The Menai report came out in August. And as I said, there was 2 reports done because of Buccellato's complaints. And this is a resolution that the tenant issued. And this was issued in September 2010. And this was a tenant inspection. And see, remember I told you, anyone challenging Satana permit has to go to Satana? Well, Mr. Buccellato did. And what's Satana do? They did the right thing. They did an inspection. And they found that his complaint was not valid. And they gave their reasons. I mean, Your Honor has this in the evidence. I'm not going to. Here's the conclusion here. Do we understand what we read? Do words have meaning? Now, I explained this to the prosecutor. When he saw this evidence, he should say, well, you know, Satena is the government agency that issued these permits. I better respect them. Maybe I should even talk to them about their permits. Discuss this report that they did. But nada. Nada. Not one word to Satena. Why? See, Judge, what I'm showing you is evidence. I'm not giving you accusations. I'm not making allegations. I'm not making assertions. These are what they call documentary evidence. This is what's supposed to rule in the court of law. Allegations. I watched. I'm saying, what are these? No explanation. They just show pictures of stuff. Nothing. I mean, it's no. This is evidence. Now, this is another important Satena resolution. Why it's important is this. Because the night this letter was written and was in the files in the night. And Louis Picardo wrote Satena saying, there's a false document, and you probably read something about that. And they, in effect, accused me of creating this false document.